My name is Buschman. I'm the managing partner at COURIUS and I'm also the author of the Connection Quotient. And in this video I want to talk about the paradox between IQ and EQ. How they are equally important and why they're not equally important. So first let's set the context. So you as a leader, you will bring in both your IQ and EQ in your business, hopefully. Why? Well, the IQ is important in order to design how you want to work. Here's a simple fact, organizations, teams, functions, they exist to produce results. And if you want to produce the results, you need your IQ to think about what is the vision, what's the strategy, what is our business model, what are the year plans, what is the task, roles, responsibilities and decision-making processes. All IQ work, things you can actually design. So as a leader, you need your IQ, absolutely. But next to it, if you look at the organizations exist out of people. People like you and me. And people, they have emotions. So also we need to start working while collaborating, thinking about now how do we relate to each other? How do I make you feel? How do you make me feel? How do we deal with conflicts? What do I do when I'm being triggered or you're being triggered? How do we celebrate success? How do we celebrate failure? How can we be with it? How can we be vulnerable where needed and so on? So you as a leader, while interacting with the other persons, rather than just being a walking head with hands attached to it and just task oriented, you also need to be relationship oriented. So IQ and EQ, you need both. Now here's the paradox. They are absolutely equally important and not. In order to explain the paradox, I'm going to ask you this question. Just think back about the best team that you have been part of, and you can define your own best team. So it could be a sports team, it could be your current business team, it could be a previous business team within this organization or a previous organization. It could be a group of volunteers, it's all fine. So you can define your own team. And the definition of best, again, I'll leave it up to you. It might be that you say I've got the biggest and highest salary or best bonus in this company. Or you might say, we had a huge impact in society and that is important to me and therefore it was the best. Or it might even be that it's a sports team. You might be an average from scoring perspective, average teams. But boy, when you showed up, when you were together, you had good fun together. You were relaxed together and therefore it was the best team. So if you have your best team in mind, your own personal best team, then also you could compare that best team with what I would call the average teams or even low performing teams, the teams where you go oh, where's the door? I want to get out of this team as soon as possible. The fundamental question that comes up then is if you think about that best team and you compare them to the average teams or even the low performing teams, then what are the attributes that stands out in those best teams that were not present or less present within the average teams or the low performing teams? So think about it. You might even write them down and pause the video for a sec. So what are those attributes that stand out in the best performing teams that you've experienced compared to the average or the low performing teams? Now, either you've written them down or in your mind, but here's what I know. I've raised this question to thousands of people all over the world, to people individually as well as in teams. And I also always noted down their answers. And here's what I found out. If you write down those attributes and you think is this an attribute that is more IQ driven, more functional, you put it on the one side, and if it's more EQ, relational driven, you put it on the other side. So for instance, if they would say we had a common goal, it's IQ driven. If they say we had fun, you would put it in the list of EQ driven. Now if you start writing all those attributes down, you will start seeing a pattern. The pattern that I, and as well as my colleagues, always see that 1/3 of the attributes, 1/3 of the answers are IQ related and 2/3 are EQ related. So check out your own answers. Probably there's also 1/3 IQ, 2/3 EQ driven. And that's what we call the paradox. The paradox is that they are absolutely equally important. Why? If I as a leader only would act from IQ, no EQ, you wouldn't stay with me as a leader, probably. You wouldn't like it. At some point you will leave because you miss the interaction or the support or whatever. Now, if I would only be an EQ-driven leader, no IQ involved, would have really wonderful conversations, but it doesn't lead anywhere. I get fired probably as first, but also the team will get fired at some point. So you see, IQ and EQ are absolutely equally important. And based on the answers of the best team exercise, 1/3, 2/3, we know that although they are absolutely equally important, that ultimately what makes the distinction is the EQ. And you might even say that if you have a good EQ within the team, in the relationships, it will be the multiplier for the results. And I would go even further. If you think about a role model, a leader that you say like that is a true role model, it might be someone you know personally or seen on television, it might be in the business or outside. But if you think about that role model, it might even be a family member. And you think about what are the attributes of this role model as a leader. Typically the answers, again, if you write them down in the functional or the relational line, the balance will be even more like to the EQ. 15% typically will be IQ and 85% will be EQ attributes. So in short, IQ and EQ are absolutely equally important, and at the same time we know through our own research by all the things that we've done and seen, and you will read more about it in the book The Connection Quotient, that if you truly dare to invest in the EQ, it will multiply your business results. Although the investment in EQ is a long-term investment, so don't expect a direct revenue and build-up of the revenue. But on the long term, you will get better as a team. So read more in the book The Connection Quotient, and thank you for listening.